Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Maya. My age is 23, or I was when this all began, and I am speaking because yesterday I learned that my husband has a child. A child he hid from me for almost a year. My lungs feel tight just saying it. My hands tremble. My thoughts stumble and misfire as if my mind has been asked to process an impossible command. I am sitting in the quiet of the house we picked together, and it feels like it belongs to strangers. It feels cold, like there is no trace of me in the walls or the light or the air. My husband's name is Derek. His age is 38. Over the last year, our marriage turned rocky, the kind of rocky I told myself newlyweds endure and survive. He worked more. He seemed distant. I blamed the pressure of his job at the hospital. I was naive. The worst part, the part that roils my stomach whenever I picture it, is this. He did not have a baby with a stranger. He had a baby with my stepsister. Her name is Chantel. My husband and my stepsister have an 8-month-old son. I did not know. I was living in a play staged by the two people I should have been able to trust most in the world. I stare at our wedding photos on the mantle. We look so happy, sugar-glossed, and brand new. That picture is 2 years old. I want to shout at the smiling girl in lace and light. I want to tell her to run. He was living a hidden life in the shadows of my family and the corners of my home. Now I do not know what to do. I called in sick to work. I cannot concentrate. The silence in this house is thunder. He says he is at the hospital when he is gone, but is he? Is he at her apartment holding his son while I count the seconds in this kitchen? I do not know what is real. To explain how I could miss something this large, I have to go back. I have to explain us, and I have to explain Chantel. I met Derek when I was 19. I was a sophomore in college in North Carolina, working the morning shift at a coffee shop not far from campus. He was a regular. His age was 34, a well-paid specialist at a hospital in the city, handsome and confident, with a smile tuned to draw trust. He talked about his schedule and his savings and his plans with a steadiness that felt like shelter to a 19-year-old juggling exams and rent. He chose me. I felt special. I felt chosen. We married a little after I turned 22. It was fast. He was decisive. I was swept along. I moved from my dorm and a tiny sublet into his orderly, sunlit house in a quiet neighborhood. It felt like a fairy tale that had been engineered, blueprint, and furnished. Chantel is 25, closer to my age. My mom, Patricia, married her dad, Leonard, when I was in middle school. Chantel and I were never close. Holidays were polite. She could be sharp and competitive in a way that made every compliment feel like it had teeth buried inside it. When I started dating Derek, the undertow of jealousy grew obvious. I remember a family cookout in Charlotte. Chantel leaned by the cooler and said, "Wow, Maya, you are so lucky. Derek is steady. It must be nice not to worry about the future." And she stirred her wine with a finger, watching me the way people watch a sparrow who accidentally flew indoors. I heard what she meant. You are kept. You are a child he funds. Derek played the aggravated but gracious brother-in-law. After those dinners, he would sigh in the car and say, "She was in a mood tonight, was she not? I do not know why she is prickly with you," and tap my knee like it was a vow. He made me feel like a team of two against an irritable relative. Now I see it as staging. He created distance and trivialized their connection so thoroughly that my suspicion never found a foothold. The beginning of the end came on a Sunday morning, sunlight pooling on the table, the smell of pancakes and coffee lifting steam from our small, tidy kitchen. I had graduated a few months before with a marketing degree I was proud of. I had started sending out resumes. Derek set his mug down and said, as if mentioning the weather, "We have been married a year. You are done with school. Maybe it is time we think about starting a family." The words hit like ice. I was 22. I wanted a job, my own income, my name on things. I did not want to shut a door on my life, just as the hallways ahead were opening. I tried to be gentle. "I would like to work a couple of years first," I said. "At least a couple of years." His face flickered. The disappointment was real, a cold light passing through his eyes before he put on a smile and squeezed my hand. "Of course," he said. "Whatever you want." I believed him. I exhaled. I did not see the seed drop. 2 weeks after that breakfast, Chantel had a dramatic breakup with her on-again, off-again boyfriend. Suddenly, she was at our house all the time, calling Derek for steady guidance, calling me for dinner because she hated the quiet in her apartment. I admire the way you two do things, she would say. You are so stable. We opened our door. I made tea while Derek listened to her on the couch like a counselor between rounds. Looking back, I wonder if that was the moment I said not yet, and she arrived crying and worshipful and available. Did I push him toward her? It is a toxic loop. My therapist says that question is a trap. Some days the whisper still tries to lift. After the pancake conversation, things cooled. It did not happen all at once. He started picking up more night coverage. He said a specialist moved to strictly outpatient, the residents needed help, and he felt obligated to cover until a new hire. It is temporary, he told me over a rushed dinner. The temporary became routine. I went to bed alone and learned the weight of the other side of a king mattress when it stays cold. A few months later, he said, while brushing his teeth, I am transitioning to permanent nights. He said it like he had changed brands of coffee. I was stunned. We will not see each other, I said. We will be roommates. He rinsed and said, nights are where I can make the most difference. The pay is better. We can save more, maybe for that trip to New Orleans you wanted. He was skilled at reframing his decisions as gifts to us. I swallowed my protest. I said, if you think it is best. I felt selfish for wanting a husband who ate dinner at home. The night schedule started. Derek left as I washed the last dish. I ate alone with the television murmuring so the silence would not drown me. Then came the family favors for Chantel. A ride because her car died. A sink that needed fixing because her landlord was slow. There was a Friday I will always remember. I had my first real job offer. I bought a bottle of sparkling wine, made his favorite lasagna, and waited. He walked in an hour early the way he did when he was going to nap before a shift. His phone buzzed. I heard her frantic voice. He hung up. Chantel thinks she left her stove on, he said. She is halfway to Leonard and Patricia's for the weekend. She will worry herself sick. I looked at the lasagna. Can she call her landlord? I have news, I said, forcing a smile. Tell me in the car, he said, already grabbing his keys. He did not come back. He texted from the hospital an hour later. It is wild. Tomorrow? Tomorrow dissolved under fatigue. I put the lasagna in containers and told myself not to be a jealous wife. The signs were there. Distant eyes. A phone angled away. New passwords on small things he used to leave open. But there was one enormous reason I shrugged off the rest. He was still intimate with me, urgent and present, almost every day. He would come home smelling like hospital soap and exhaustion, wrap his arms around me in the hallway, and pull me back toward the bedroom with a murmur that he missed me. It was proof, I told myself, that I was still loved and wanted. It was also, as I now know, maintenance. Yesterday it fell apart. He came home at 8 in the morning. I was dressed for work at the kitchen table, clearing emails. He mumbled a greeting, kissed my cheek, and went to the shower. He crashed into sleep. His phone sat on the nightstand charging. I have never been a person who checks a partner's phone. I believe in trust, or I did. My chest thudded with a heavy rhythm. I stood there a full minute chastising myself for even thinking it. Then I picked it up. I knew his passcode. He told it to me months back for music in the car. I swiped. My thumb hovered over messages. I told myself I would only look at the list of names. It was mundane, his mother, a work group chat with a heroic name, his dentist. Then I saw Chantel. The preview said, do not forget the diapers. My mind tried to assemble an explanation that did not break the world. Babysitting? A donation? A bad joke? I tapped. The thread opened and I sat on the floor because my knees would not bear me. A whole year of a parallel marriage spilled out in weather-casual sentences and domestic logistics. Daycare fees due Friday. Pediatrician at 2 o'clock. He has a rash. I sent a picture. Then the words that cleaved. Your son. And a name I had never heard. Zane misses you. I scrolled. There were photos of a small boy with a tuft of dark hair, asleep against Derek's chest, gnawing on a teether, grinning with 2 new teeth. There were jokes about finally down for a nap, so I can fix the sink LOL. There were messages about shifts that were lies, gaps in the night woven around a crib and a bottle. There were explicit lines about their bodies and the places they chose, and there were comments about me. Is Em suspicious? She wrote. Derek answered, not a clue. She is too trusting. Thinks I am just a dedicated doctor. It is almost sad. I felt heat climb my neck and settle there like a brand. I scrolled and scrolled until the date of Zane's birth lined up with the week Derek moved to permanent nights. It was never about higher pay. It was about a baby. his baby with my stepsister. He was not always at the hospital. He was being a father in a different kitchen. At some point I stopped seeing the words. The screen blurred. I was cold and shaking. When his alarm went off at 4 p.m, I had not moved from the table. He shuffled in, kissed my cheek like a reflex, and I fought the urge to wipe it away. I am going to get breakfast near the hospital, he said. I listened to his car leave the driveway and stared at the wall while the reality stacked up like cinder blocks around my chair. I took inventory. The house was in his name. The down payment came from his old condo. At 22, I had been told it would be simpler that way. The car I drove had been a graduation gift, the title his. My personal savings account had $121 and change. My part-time marketing pay went to our joint checking, a place he could drain with a tap. My credit card was an authorized user card on his account. He could remove me with one phone call. I felt sick. I had viewed his financial care as love. It had also been a velvet-lined cage. I called my mother, Patricia. I thought she would be horrified on my behalf. She answered cheerful and breezy about a family birthday dinner on Saturday. I started sobbing. I told her everything in a rush. There was a long quiet, like a hallway with no doors. Finally, she sighed and said, cautious, Maya, are you sure? You are not jumping to conclusions. I saw the messages, I said. There are photos. There is a baby named Zane. There was another long pause. Then she said the words I cannot unhear. Derek is a good man. He must have made a mistake. You told him you did not want children yet. Men have needs, Maya. A mistake is a wrong turn to a different street, not a hidden child. I whispered that. She told me I should think of the family, think of Leonard, think of holidays, think of complicated things like inheritance, think about counseling. It felt like my ribcage tightened around my heart. She was protecting the surface of her life, not the core of mine. The next 2 days were fog. I stopped going to work. I lay on the couch under the hum of the air conditioner and stared. My college friend Alicia texted. I told her a shortened version. She responded with support and also asked if he had shown signs of unhappiness. That question slid in like a thin blade and turned. I heard myself saying out loud, if I had given him a child sooner. It was nonsense, and it held me like a spell until it shattered. The break came in the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and saw swollen eyes and matted hair. I looked like someone life had rolled over. I thought of their son, an innocent child. I thought of Chantel's soft, your son messages and Derek's almost sad line about my trust. The anger that rose was clean and bright. Saying not yet to a child at 22 is not a betrayal. Financial dependence is not an invitation for cruelty. My mother's peacekeeping does not rewrite what is right. I told my reflection, no more. And I meant it. I opened my laptop. I wrote to a professor I admired from college, Professor Whitaker. I said I was in a difficult personal situation and ready to pursue my career aggressively. I attached my resume and asked if she had contacts in Atlanta, 2 hours from where we lived, where 2 college friends had landed. I sent the email before I could reverse myself. It felt like the first rung on a ladder inside a dark well. I searched for divorce lawyers near me who offered free consultations. I wrote 3 names and numbers on paper, not my phone, and tucked the paper into a copy of Beloved on my bookshelf. I began to perform. Derek would come home from his shift and find me composed, a plate warming in the oven, my voice steady. I said, "How was your night?" And he said, "Busy," with the same practiced weariness. Inside, I was a wire pulled tight. One afternoon while he slept, I went into the small home office, shut the door, and opened the file drawer where he kept our financial documents. I photographed everything: salary statements, joint account statements, the mortgage, car titles, his retirement accounts, a savings account I did not know existed. I sent all of it to a secret email address with a random name. I deleted and deleted again. Knowledge is weight and leverage and light. Patricia called daily to ask if I had considered counseling. Leonard's voice would slide onto speakerphone to say I should not be rash, that Derek made a terrible mistake but provided a good life. I told them we were thinking. It was a lie I gave myself permission to tell. I needed space to build my exit. At night, after he left for the hospital, I searched apartments in Atlanta. I made lists. I tracked budgets. I emailed property managers. I decided which neighborhood would be safe and close enough to a plausible commute. I imagined my own couch, my own houseplants, my own name on every bill. I felt my spine straighten inside my skin. A week into the plan, I was going to tell him. I had practiced a speech. I would sit at the table where he first said family, and I would say divorce like a bell with a clear tone. That afternoon, he walked into the kitchen pale and hollow. He leaned against the counter and watched me pour coffee. I said, "Derek, we need to talk." His face crumpled. He slid to the floor like someone unplugged him. "You know," he whispered. "Yes," I said. My voice surprised me. It had steel in it. He spoke then in a rambling, soggy confession. How it started after that breakfast. How he felt lonely and afraid of time closing. How Chantel understood and admired him. How it was a mistake that grew teeth. He said he loved me as if the word could float. He said he was sorry a dozen ways. He said he would end it with her. He said counseling could repair us. He said we could have our own baby. I watched him like he was a stranger at a bus stop telling me the headline of his life. The love I thought I had for him was gone. The man I married was a careful fiction. "No," I said calm. "There is nothing left to fix." He nodded like the decision had been waiting inside him too. The air in the house thinned into something crisp and businesslike. We were no longer husband and wife. We were two parties dissolving a contract. We sat at the kitchen table to talk logistics. I said I wanted a divorce that was fast and clean. He did not fight me. His career carries reputation. He is a doctor. He knew scandal could spread in a minute in our circles. He knew Leonard and Patricia would be faced with the wreckage. He was frightened. "The car is yours," he said without looking at me. "I will sign the title over." I nodded. "There is also a separate savings account," he continued. "I was planning a trip for us for our anniversary. We did not take it. Please take it for your start." "I do not want guilt money," I said. "It is not guilt," he said. "It was for us. There is no us. It should be yours." He told me the amount, $15,000. He suggested covering an apartment until I could afford rent. I refused. "I am not staying in this town," I said. "I will not take rent from you." The cage was gilded enough. I would not accept the lock again. "You need a lawyer," he said. "I have already spoken to mine to start paperwork. You need someone for you." He could not meet my eyes when he said the last words. I told him I wanted half the balance in our joint checking account. He agreed without pause. I told him I wanted a one-time settlement equivalent to a year of his salary. "For the 3 years of marriage," I said. "For the time I suspended my career while supporting yours." He swallowed and nodded. "Okay," he said. "Yes." I watched him transfer the $15,000 from the separate account to my personal account because I wanted it clean and recorded and irreversible. I had the strange thought that some people break you and still sign the check to help you stand. The last week in the house moved like a quiet storm. We choreographed around each other. I ordered boxes. I made piles, mine his trash. Mine was small, clothes, books, laptop, a few gifts from my grandmother. His was everything that defined the house to an outsider. The couch, the dining table with the charming nicks from moving day, the wedding china, the television. I left those artifacts on his pile and felt lighter. On moving day, my 2 college friends, Alicia and Taryn, drove down in a borrowed pickup, and we rented a small U-Haul. Derek was on shift because I asked him to be. I did not want to negotiate what to say with our hands on the same box. When we had carried the last carton out, I placed my house key on the counter next to my wedding ring. I paused, said nothing, and walked out. We pulled onto the highway, and I did not look back. The calls from Patricia came like a metronome. "You did not try hard enough," she said. "You have broken this family," she said. "Chantel is a mess," she said. I listened without offering the bomb she wanted. "I did not break it," I said finally, my voice quiet. "They did. And you did when you asked me to think of everyone but myself." I blocked their numbers for a while to create quiet around the inside of my life. 2 months later, I had to return to the old town for a dentist appointment I forgot to change. I stopped at a grocery store for water on the way out. I saw them in the baby aisle. Derek pushing the cart. Chantel reading the back of a jar. A small boy in the seat, Zane, with that soft tuft of hair. Derek leaned in and said something. Chantel laughed, bright and simple. He touched the small of her back. It was the gesture of a husband. My breath stuttered. I ducked behind a display of paper towels and watched the family I had not imagined on a Tuesday afternoon. I could have closed my hand around anger. Instead, I put the bottle back and walked out. I wanted freedom, not revenge. It has been 6 months since I left. Professor Whitaker wrote back the day after I emailed. She was furious for me and practical about what came next. She connected me with a former student, now a hiring manager in Atlanta. The interview happened over video from my old bedroom a week before I moved. They offered me an entry-level position that came with a reasonable salary and a path upward. I started the day after I arrived. My apartment is a one-bedroom with sunlight in the morning. Most of the furniture came from Facebook Marketplace and big box stores. I assembled it myself with a borrowed screwdriver and a stubborn streak. Every bill has my name on it. The settlement sits in a high-yield savings account I labeled my Never Again Fund. I have not touched a dollar. Knowing it is there is like feeling a key in my palm that opens any door I need. Some days a song comes on the radio and I feel a thin ache for the naive girl I was. That girl believed that a steady voice and a full refrigerator meant safety. I am sad for her. I am not sad about losing him. You cannot mourn a person who never actually existed the way you thought he did. Therapy helps. I booked it with my own insurance. We are unspooling the knots and laying out the threads in straight lines. I am learning that my worth is not contingent on someone else's vow. I keep most conversations with family brief. Patricia apologized once in a way that rolled past the mark, saying she was in shock and did not think clearly. I said, "I heard you loud and clear then. We do not discuss Derek or Chantel. I heard through a friend that they live together now in the house I left, and that the shine has worn thin. I did not ask for more. That is their weather, not mine. I see Alicia and Taryn on weekends. We try new food trucks, or we walk on the Beltline, or we sit on my floor and watch a movie and build a puzzle like we did in college, older and steadier and more ourselves. Work is challenging in the way that makes time move quickly. I pitched a campaign last month that got picked up by a client I admired in school. My manager called it sharp and generous with the data. I got a small raise. I bought a plant that needs light and care and grows fast when you pay attention. One evening, Derek called from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. He said he hoped I was well, that he was sorry, that he wanted to make sure the title transfer went through without issue. I called the DMV myself to confirm. It was done. There was nothing else to say. He sent one more message to my email, the only channel he still had, saying he had seen a coffee mug I left behind and could mail it. I replied with the address of the local shelter and asked him to donate it. He wrote back, okay. The official documents arrived the following week. The envelope was heavy. I signed in 3 places and walked to the corner mailbox. The blue metal was warm from the sun. I slid the papers into darkness, and for the first time in months, my shoulders dropped. A few weeks later, on a quiet Saturday, there was a knock on my door. It was my mother. She stood in the hallway looking smaller than I remembered. "I was nearby," she said. "I wanted to see you." I let her in. She looked around my apartment and nodded at the table I assembled and the plant standing tall by the window. "It suits you," she said. We sat. She took a breath and said, "I chose comfort over courage." "I am sorry." I said, "I needed you to choose me." She nodded. "I know. We did not fix everything. We began something like an honest line between us. That night I cooked pasta and roasted vegetables and set one plate, and then, on second thought, set another. I ate at my small table in the light of my own lamp. The city hummed through the open window. I thought of the Sunday morning pancakes that began the unraveling. I thought of the way the word family had been used like a coin to buy my compliance. I ate slowly. I tasted salt and olive oil and heat. I washed the dish and put it on the rack and wiped the counter and turned off the light. There are moments when memory tries to argue. It says he offered you the car. He gave you the travel fund. He signed quickly. Does that not mean something kind? I have learned to answer myself plainly. Sometimes a person who harms you also helps you into the ambulance. It does not erase the collision. It means you can walk out of the hospital and choose a different road. A few months into the new job, I led a small team on a regional campaign for a nonprofit. We spent a Tuesday on calls and spreadsheets and edits. Near the end of the day, the director said, "You kept your voice even when everything changed. That steadiness makes the creative stronger." I muted and cried for 2 minutes, quiet tears, not because I was sad, but because a stranger had named a skill I had not recognized in myself. I unmuted and said thank you, and then adjusted the budget request by $1,000 because I knew exactly what we needed. On a Sunday, I took a train to visit a museum. I stood in front of a painting for a long time, watching the artist's brushstrokes create shine on a glass vase and shadow on a half-peeled orange. An older woman beside me said, "It looks simple, then you notice all the decisions." I smiled. "That is how my life feels," I said. We stood there, 2 quiet people in a bright room, thinking about work and hands and how small decisions manage light. I do not rehearse speeches anymore. If I ever have to see Derek again, perhaps in a courthouse hallway or a supermarket aisle in some other city years from now, I will nod and mean nothing by it. I do not want payback. I want the clean feel of air moving through a room with the windows open. I have that now. I have keys that belong to me. I have a bed that warms on both sides. I have my name set fast on my own life. Before I fell asleep last night, I looked at the account labeled Never Again and thought of the day he transferred $15,000 from his account to mine, and I placed my ring on the counter and walked out. In the moment, it felt like a transaction in a gray ledger. Now I see it as the hinge the door turned on. I turned the light off and did not feel alone. I felt free. If you are listening for an ending, here is the honest version. There is no ribbon bow and no grand speech in a crowded room. There is a woman in her apartment, a plant growing toward the window, a small promotion that paid for a second-hand armchair, a mother who came to the door and tried a second time, a man in a different house learning what it costs to live inside the life he built. There is a child named Zane who will have his own story, hopefully one that is soft and good. There is me, Maya, 23 then and older now, waking up to a morning that belongs to me and stepping into it without asking permission. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.